On the outskirts of Gotham City lies a dark, ominous building known as Arkham Asylum. Arkham Asylum is home to Gotham City's worst villains, madmen too evil and too psychotic to mix with ordinary criminals. Most of them were captured by Gotham's Dark Knight, the Batman. All of them are in for life. All of them are out for revenge. Revenge against Batman. As the rain beats against the walls outside of Arkham Asylum, Chief Psychiatrist Dr. Burton was inside, standing before the thick steel door to one of the most closely guarded cells in the madhouse. The door that guarded Harvey Dent. Dent had once been Gotham's district attorney, but when a criminal splashed burning acid on half of his face, Dent went insane and gave himself the nickname Two-Face. His personality was split into two halves, both of them mad, and he became obsessed with a number 2. He decided everything by the flip of a scarred, two-headed silver coin.
Security, open the door.
Machinery rumbled as the door slid back, revealing a tiny cell. In a chair in the center of the room sat a man with his back to the door. Dr. Burton was relieved to see that he was wearing his straitjacket.
Two-Face, Mr. Dent?
But the figure didn't answer.
Mr. Dent, Harvey?
Still, the man in the chair didn't answer. As Dr. Burton nervously entered the room and touched the figure, it suddenly whipped around to reveal an orderly, gagged and bound to the chair with strips of bed sheets. Dr. Burton shivered in terror. Two-Face had escaped. As word of Two-Face's escape spread through Gotham City like wildfire, billionaire Bruce Wayne was busy inspecting the electronics division of one of his many companies. Tucked away in a tiny cubicle in an unimportant part of the office, technician Edward Nygma waited for his chance to meet Bruce Wayne and dreamed of impressing the famous billionaire.
Bruce is sure to appreciate my talents. We'll probably dine at Wayne Manor together. Bruce, could you pass the gravy boat? Oops, I forgot. We have people to do that, don't we?
Edward Nygma was obsessed with Bruce Wayne. When Bruce finally appeared around the corner, Nygma grabbed his latest invention and rushed forward.
Mr. Wayne. Brainwaves, Mr. Wayne. That's the future of electronics. Brainwaves.
Who are you?
Nygma, sir. Edward Nygma. You hired me. At least your name was on the hire slip, and you should be glad you did. My remote encephalographic stimulator will revolutionize the entertainment industry.
What is it, Ed?
Oh, I knew you'd understand. My invention beams any TV signal directly into the human brain. It creates a 3-dimensional image inside your head.
Just then, a large searchlight with a symbol shaped like a bat shined over Gotham City's skyline. Glimpsing the bat signal through a nearby window, Bruce Wayne cut the conversation short.
Sorry, Edward. Tampering with people's brain waves is mind manipulation. It raises too many question marks.
As Bruce hurried away, Edward Nygma glared hatefully after him.
You were supposed to understand. I'll make you understand.
Hurrying to his private office, Bruce Wayne dropped into his comfortable leather chair.
Chair.
At Bruce Wayne's voice command, the chair transformed into a sleek one-man transport and dropped through a secret trapdoor. No one but Bruce Wayne and his faithful butler Alfred knew about this secret elevator, and no one but those two knew about the hidden tunnel that led from Bruce Wayne's office straight to the caverns beneath Wayne Manor. No one else knew, because no one else knew that Bruce Wayne was the Batman. Thanks to his supersonic transport, Bruce Wayne reached the Batcave in minutes to find Alfred waiting for him.
All is ready, sir.
Quickly slipping on his cape and cowl, the hero transformed from the carefree billionaire Bruce Wayne into Gotham's Dark Knight. Then Batman jumped into the sleek, powerful Batmobile.
I don't suppose, sir, I could convince you to take a sandwich along.
I'll get drive-through.
As the bat signal floated over the city, below it, on the 22nd floor of the Second Bank of Gotham, Two-Face was hatching his next plot. He and his gang had already kidnapped a bank security guard, and now Two-Face stood over the helpless old man, flipping his infamous silver dollar, with one clean side and one side horribly scarred.
Counting on Batman to rescue you, old chum? I'll let you in on a secret. So are we.
Are you gonna kill me?
we'll let the coin decide. Fortune smiles on you, friend. Our coin landed with the clean side up. That means you live.
But, boss, there's too many witnesses. We should ice them. Uh-oh.
Oh, you stinking piece of virus-breeding rat droppings! Did you question our coin?
No, boss, never.
Good. Now, let us prepare for the arrival of our winged foe.
On the streets below, Commissioner Gordon and a squad of policemen surrounded the building, waiting for Two-Face to make his next move. Beside the commissioner stood the beautiful and brilliant psychologist Chase Meridian. Suddenly, a darker shadow melted out of the night, the shadow of the Batman.
Is it Two-Face?
Yes, Batman. 2 guards are down. He's holding the 3rd one hostage, some poor old retired cop. We didn't see this one coming.
We should have. After all, it is the 2nd Bank of Gotham.
On the 2nd anniversary of the day I captured him. You're Dr. Chase Meridian, an expert on abnormal psychology. I've read your work.
I'm flattered. Not every girl makes a superhero's night table. And speaking of work, I could write a heck of a paper on a grown man who dresses like a flying rodent.
Bats aren't rodents, Dr. Meridian.
Call me Chase. By the way, do you have a first name? Or do I just call you Bats? Hey, he's gone.
He does that.
In the building above them, Two-Face and his gang waited eagerly for Batman to appear. Suddenly, they heard a bell ring as an elevator arrived.
Drill 'em, boys!
Two-Face and his thugs raised their machine guns, and a hail of armor-piercing bullets punched holes in the elevator doors, shredding anyone inside. The thugs closed in eagerly as the elevator door opened to reveal an empty shaft. Before anyone could react, Batman flew out of the shaft from above, feet first, sending the thugs scattering.
Look out!
Faster than the eye could follow, the Dark Knight's hands pulled weapons from his utility belt. Batman had sworn never to use a gun or take a life, but he had other devices at hand. As Two-Face's gang closed in, an air-powered bat pistol sent a glob of hyper-adhesive glue splattering against 2 of the thugs, sticking them to the floor. Batman's other hand launched a spinning batarang that connected with the forehead of a 3rd villain.
What's the matter, Batsy? Are you out of weapons? Oh! Ooh.
Batman responded with a savage karate kick, and then another, and another, until the rest of the thugs were down. The Dark Knight whirled to find Two-Face, but the villain had vanished. All Batman could see was the bank's gigantic vault, with the door wide open, and the kidnapped guard bound and gagged inside. Batman sensed a trap, but he had to save the guard. Stepping into the narrow vault, he cut the man's ropes, but just as he did, the vault door slammed shut.
Good evening, Mr. Bat.
Two-Face's voice came over a hidden speaker.
Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is simple. Die.
Suddenly, the safe jerked violently and began to move. Two-Face had hooked the vault to a chain, and now a powerful helicopter was tearing it right out of the building.
We're gonna die.
Stay calm.
2 years ago, you stuck us in that hellhole you call an asylum. Happy anniversary. And for your dying pleasure, we're serving up the very same acid that made ours truly who we are today.
As Two-Face spoke, boiling red acid began to spout from holes inside the safe. Batman and the helpless guard scrambled on top of a pile of money bags to avoid the deadly chemicals that slowly filled the vault.
I don't suppose you know the combination to this safe.
Are you kidding? I can't even remember my phone number. Can't you just blow it open?
Acid's flammable. We'd incinerate. Is that a hearing aid you're wearing?
Yeah, but...
I need to borrow it.
Snatching the hearing aid right off the guard's head, Batman pressed it against the door to the safe. Faintly, through the hearing aid, Batman heard the tumblers clicking into place.
Hurry, Batman!
Quiet.
As Two-Face's helicopter slowly lifted the bank vault up into the air, Batman raced to open the locked door. Just as the burning acid reached them, Batman heard the last tumbler fall into place. The door flew open, and the Dark Knight quickly swung out onto the top of the suspended vault, pulling the guard quickly after him as a fountain of acid spewed from inside.
We're safe!
Not yet.
They had escaped the acid, but they were still clinging to a bank vault suspended from a helicopter hundreds of feet over Gotham City. As the helicopter flew near a building, the Dark Knight fired a batarang that sank into the wall. Tying the free end of the bat line to the safe, Batman next produced a small laser torch and began to burn the chain connecting the vault to Two-Face's helicopter.
What are you doing?
Hold on!
As the Dark Knight cut through the chain, the safe fell away, swinging on its bat line in a wide arc that sent it flying back toward the bank, safely back into place. Inside the helicopter, Two-Face's evil grin vanished.
So, he thinks he's clever, does he? Well, two can play at that game.
Two-Face hauled back on the controls, making the helicopter shoot through the night sky like a rocket. Batman clung desperately to the chain and slowly pulled himself up hand over hand. He reached the helicopter just in time to see Two-Face aim the craft toward the giant statue of Lady Gotham that guarded the harbor. He was going to crash the helicopter.
To be finally rid of that pointy-eared, steroid-eating, rubber-suited, cross-dressing night rat.
You need help, Harvey.
Not as much as you. I spent 2 years in Arkham planning your demise. There's only one way out of this tango. One of us dies.
As Batman dodged the punch, Two-Face suddenly jumped out of the helicopter.
Goodbye, old pal. Glad to see you go.
As Batman watched, Two-Face plunged into the darkness until his body was hidden behind a great unfolding parachute. Batman tried to turn the helicopter aside, but Two-Face had locked the controls in place. At the last minute, Batman threw himself out of the chopper straight down toward the water. Suddenly, the cold night air was blasted into fiery light as the helicopter burst into flames. Piercing the water like a professional diver, Batman resurfaced, gasping for air. Above him, the explosion still glowed brightly. Two-Face had won the first round. As Batman pulled himself out of Gotham Harbor, a few miles away, Edward Nygma was experimenting with his brainwave device. Unfortunately, he was experimenting on a helpless co-worker he had kidnapped.
Now, don't worry. This won't hurt a bit. At least I don't think it will.
Nygma strapped an electronic device to his victim's head, then attached a similar device to himself. Then he inspected a piece of equipment that looked like a television set attached to several wires and a big coiled antenna. He expected to see a revolutionary new 3D image, but when he threw the switch, a loud zap filled the room. Sparks flew, and a beam of white light shot from his victim's forehead into the TV monitor and back into his own. Instantly, Edward Nygma knew what had happened.
Yow! I've had a breakdown. I mean a breakthrough. I'm smarter. I'm a genius. I'm experiencing saturation of the cerebrum. Yo, Charlie, give me an order of brain fry. Hold the neurons.
Nygma's invention not only tapped into the brain, it actually stole brain power. It could make Edward Nygma the smartest man in the world. At last, Edward had found a way to show Bruce Wayne who was the better man.
Bruce said my invention raised too many question marks. Well, I'll ask him some questions no one in this town will ever forget.
A few days later, Bruce Wayne made an appointment to see Dr. Chase Meridian. She had no idea that he'd seen her once before as Batman. She had seemed to like Batman, but when they met in her downtown office, she treated Bruce Wayne like any other client.
What can I do for you, Mr. Wayne?
I've been receiving these anonymous notes, Doc. Well, they're riddles, actually.
If you look at the numbers on my face, you won't find 13 any place. Well, the answer's a clock.
Of course. Clock faces only count 1 through 12.
And this second one? Tear one off and scratch my head. What once was red is black instead.
The answer's a match. I get the answers. But what kind of person would send these riddles in the first place?
This letter writer is a total wacko.
Wacko? That's a technical term?
The patient suffers from obsessional syndrome with potential homicide styles.
So, what you're saying, this guy's a total wacko.
And he's got a thing for you, Mr. Wayne. An obsession. His only escape may be...
to kill me.
You understand obsessions very well, Mr. Wayne. Maybe you have an obsession of your own you want to discuss.
Me? No, Doc, all I've got on my mind right now is you and me, and 2 tickets to the Gotham Circus.
The circus? I love the circus. I
was hoping you'd say that.
The circus came to Gotham twice a year. It was famous for its charity benefits, when all the richest and most important people in Gotham, including Bruce Wayne, came to watch the show.
Come on, let's find our seats, Chase. This year's show is supposed to be especially good. It features a family of acrobats called the Flying Graysons. They've got this teenage son named Dick Grayson. He's supposed to be amazing, some sort of boy wonder.
I can't wait to see them.
As Bruce and Chase watched, high above them on the trapeze, the Flying Graysons performed a series of death-defying jumps and spins in midair. Father, mother, and two sons leaped from wire to wire, rope to rope, with amazing speed and timing. But with all eyes on the acrobats above, no one noticed a gang of thugs slowly creeping into the big top. Suddenly, a familiar voice echoed over the loudspeaker.
Ladies and gentlemen, we interrupt our regularly scheduled show to bring you a special event. We call it Massacre Under the Big Top.
It was Two-Face. His gang had taken over the circus. Thugs with machine guns guarded the exits as Two-Face appeared in the center ring. He directed the audience's attention toward a gigantic bomb he had secretly suspended from the circus top.
In just 2 minutes, that bomb will go off, blowing all of you Gotham big shots into little pieces. Unless, that is, you give me Batman. Bruised, broken, bleeding, in a word, dead.
Helplessly, Bruce Wayne watched as the crowd began to panic. But Two-Face's gang guarded every exit, and no one would be released until Batman appeared. Bruce knew what he had to do. Standing up, he began to shout, "Over here!
Bruce, look up there!"
While Two-Face had talked, the daring circus acrobats had begun to climb the wires toward the bomb high overhead.
Somebody stop those acrobats! Blast them! Turn those Flying Graysons into Dying Graysons!
Two-Face's thugs scrambled up the ropes in pursuit of the daring acrobats. The fastest climber in the Grayson family was their teenage son, Dick.
"I'll take care of the bomb, Dad. Just give me some time."
As Dick continued toward the ticking bomb, his family turned back to hold off the thugs.
Bruce, what can we do? Those acrobats are no match for that gang. If only Batman were here.
Yeah, if only.
Bruce Wayne, unable to escape from the sealed circus tent, could only watch as Two-Face's thugs overpowered Mr. Grayson and his older son. His wife tried to help, but one of the thugs shoved her right off the platform. The crowd screamed. But at the last minute, she grabbed hold of a stray rope and hung there, suspended 100 feet above the ground. The thugs were about to finish all the Graysons off when Two-Face interrupted them.
Less than a minute left. Those glorified tumblers will never reach my bomb in time. Let's go.
Reluctantly, the gang turned away from their victims and slid quickly down the ropes toward a waiting trapdoor. They were going to escape, leaving the crowd to die in the fiery bomb burst. High above, unaware of his mother's plight, Dick Grayson had reached the bomb and was frantically pulling at the straps that held it in place.
"All I've got to do is get it through the service hatch at the top of the tent. Just a few more seconds."
Below him, his father and brother were trying to rescue Mrs. Grayson. They had formed a human chain, suspended from a trapeze, and were swinging out to grab her.
15 seconds to go. Everybody into the tunnel.
As his gang fled to safety, Two-Face glared up at the acrobats who had wrecked his plan. That nuisance Dick Grayson had freed the bomb and was shoving it through a hole in the top of the tent.
"Just a few more feet. There."
As Dick gave a final shove, the bomb popped through the hatch and rolled down the outside of the tent toward the harbor below.
That boy's going to save everyone and ruin everything. But his family. Well, there's still time for a little fun.
The other acrobats had safely caught Mrs. Grayson, and now all three family members were holding onto the same wire. Slowly, Two-Face pulled two objects from his pocket. One was a revolver. The other was his silver coin.
Always the same old question. Life or death?
Looking down at his coin, the demented villain saw that the scarred side was up. Taking careful aim, he fired. The first bullet sliced part of the rope that held the Graysons.
Like I always say, second time's the charm.
But the second one cut the rope completely. The crowd screamed as the three Graysons plummeted toward the ground. Too far away to help, Dick Grayson could only watch in horror.
"Mom! Dad! No!"
In the crowd, Bruce Wayne's face mirrored his pain. Bruce had lost his mother and father years ago. Now Dick Grayson had just lost his entire family. The next day, a line of cars wound its way slowly down the long driveway at Wayne Manor. Bruce Wayne had kindly offered to pay for the funeral of Dick Grayson's family. Many of Gotham City's finest citizens had attended the funeral, and for the moment, everyone had forgotten about Two-Face in order to honor the three heroes. Everyone, that is, except Dick Grayson. When all the mourners had left, Bruce found him working out in the elaborate gymnasium. Dick stood in front of a boxer's heavy bag, punching out his frustrations.
Two-Face! Ugh! He murdered my parents! Ugh! I'm going to kill him. Ugh!
Killing him won't take the pain away. It'll make it worse.
Spare me the sermons. I don't need your advice.
But you need someone. You're alone now. I know what that's like.
No offense, but I don't think there's anything you can teach me.
Suddenly, dropping his fake billionaire playboy act, Bruce turned to the heavy bag and delivered 3 lightning-fast karate kicks that tore the bag in half.
Don't be too sure.
Surprised by such a sudden change in Bruce, Dick Grayson decided to stay at Wayne Manor, if only to unravel the mystery of Bruce Wayne. And perhaps, he thought, there was some way Bruce could help him exact his revenge upon Two-Face. On the other side of Gotham, another friendship was also just beginning. In his secret hideout, Two-Face and his gang were suddenly confronted by Edward Nygma, who had dressed himself in a lime green costume covered with question marks and now called himself
The Riddler, at your service.
We'll call you dead, more like it. How'd you find us?
The Riddler produced a smaller, improved version of his brainwave device and gave it to Two-Face. The villain cautiously touched the receiver to his head, and instantly he was jolted with a dose of stored neural energy.
I see how you found us. You correlated all dualities in the city. Orders of half-and-half pizza, wine splits, two-tone clothing, cross-reference to dresses with multiples of 2, leading you...
Here, to you. And all thanks to my little brainwave device.
We like it. We want more.
And more you shall have, my bifurcated friend. But only if we work as a pair.
We already are a pair.
A threesome, then. Think of it. My IQ, your AK-47. This is the bargain. You will help me gather production capital so I can produce enough of these devices. Enough to build an empire that will crush Bruce Wayne's forever. In return, I will help you solve the greatest riddle of them all. Who is Batman?
So began a crime spree that shocked the city. One night, the Gotham Casino was robbed. Then the Dirk Maggs radio center was looted. On yet another night, O'Neill's exclusive restaurant was raided. Every night, a robbery was committed. All of them were unpredictable. All were ingenious. And at the scene of every crime, the police found a riddle. Batman and Commissioner Gordon were baffled.
It's got to be Two-Face, Batman. But he's never been this clever before.
Two-Face would never spend time on clues. He's working with someone. This Riddler is the brains of the outfit. I'll catch him. Somehow.
Gotham City was so shocked by the crime wave that hardly anyone noticed when a small businessman named Edward Nygma purchased Claw Island in the middle of Gotham Harbor. Even fewer noticed when he announced that his new electronics company, Nygma Tech, was going to produce an invention called the Box. Of course, no one was allowed on Claw Island. If they had been, they would have realized that Nygma Tech was funded completely by the money stolen in the crime wave, and that the two entrepreneurs hiding on the private island were the Riddler and Two-Face.
You're a hit, Two-Face. My boxes are selling like hotcakes. And every box that's sold sends more brain power right here to Claw Island.
Making us the smartest men on the planet.
Well, maybe the first smartest and second smartest. Well, maybe first, second, and third smartest. In any case, we're very, very rich.
Yes! But when do we destroy the Bat?
Patience, Two-Face, patience. We've got to be careful. We have to look both ways before we cross the street, don't we?
Should we wait? We'll wait. But not for long.
Meanwhile, Dick Grayson had grown more and more curious about his benefactor, Bruce Wayne. He noticed that Bruce kept making dates with the psychologist Chase Meridian, but he broke every single one of them. Dyck also noticed that Bruce canceled his plans every time the bat signal lit up the Gotham skyline, and that Bruce disappeared soon after the signal appeared. Finally, there was only one locked door in the entire mansion, and Bruce's trusted butler Alfred refused to open it.
Come on, Alfred, old buddy. Let's have a look.
I'm afraid not, sir.
What's back there?
Master Wayne's dead wives.
But Dyck wouldn't give up. One night, Bruce Wayne finally kept a date with Chase Meridian. Only Alfred and Dyck were left in the gigantic mansion. Patiently, Dyck waited for his chance, and when Alfred tried to slip unnoticed through the locked door, Dyck dived through the opening. The young acrobat found himself rolling and tumbling through the darkness, head over heels, until he came to rest in a gigantic underground chamber filled with computers and scientific equipment, and gleaming in the darkness, the most powerful-looking car Dyck had ever seen. He was in the Batcave. Miles away from Wayne Manor, Bruce Wayne and Chase Meridian had finished a lovely dinner. For a few minutes, Bruce had managed to think about something besides Two-Face, Riddler, and his own private war against crime. But when they returned to Chase's apartment, he was depressed to see her walls covered with photographs and magazine articles all about Batman.
Why do I suddenly feel like the other man here, Doc? You seem to have a thing for Batman.
All right, I admit it. He's fascinating. Clinically fascinating, I mean. Someone like Batman must be obsessed with his cause. Something terrible must have happened to make him so afraid.
Afraid? He seems angry to me.
Anger is often a reaction that stems from a feeling of fear.
Well, all I know is that you spend an awful lot of time thinking about him.
Don't tell me you're jealous.
Jealous? How could I be jealous of how could I be jealous of a man who runs around dressed like a flying rodent?
Bats aren't rodents, Mr. Wayne.
I thought we might have something here, but it sounds to me like... Oh, excuse me, that's my cellular phone.
Answering his private line, Bruce hears Alfred's voice on the other end of the line.
Sorry to bother you, sir, but it's about the boy.
Yes, Alfred.
I'm afraid he's taken the car.
Oh, is that all? He boosted the Jaguar?
No, sir. The other car.
At that moment, the Batmobile was hurtling down the streets of Gotham City, weaving from lane to lane. Suddenly, it came to a screeching halt in front of a dark alley where three hoods were mugging a tourist.
Chill, dudes, it's Batman.
The muggers froze in terror as the Batmobile's top popped open and out jumped Dyck Grayson, dressed in a t-shirt and jeans.
Who the heck are you?
I'm Batman. Oh, heck. Did I forget to dress again?
Thinking that they weren't in danger, the three hoods attacked. But although Dyck Grayson wasn't Batman, he was a tough fighter. Before they knew what had hit them, all three muggers had been knocked flat on their backs. As Dyck Grayson laughed, they took off running.
Go on, get out of here. Man, I could get used to this superhero stuff.
Dyck's gloating was cut off as the muggers reappeared, followed by 24 friends from a nearby bar.
All right, wise guy, let's party.
But suddenly, a dark shadow fell over the gang of thugs.
Sorry, party's over.
Before the thugs could move, the real Batman descended on them like their worst nightmare. A shadow that sprang to life, dealing out pain with a vengeance. Half the gang had fallen before the others had the sense to turn tail and run. When they were gone, the Dark Knight turned to the teenager.
Dyck, are you... Oh!
You killed my parents!
Dyck, what are you...
It's your fault, Bruce. If you'd given yourself up that night at the circus, if you'd shown Two-Face who you were, my parents would still be alive.
No, Dyck. Two-Face is a madman. He would have killed those people anyway, just for fun.
It's still your fault.
Dyck, I wish there was something I could do to change things.
There is. Let me be a part of this.
You don't know what you're asking.
It's all I think about. Getting Two-Face. He took my whole life. But just now, fighting those guys, I imagined it was him I was fighting, and all the hurt went away. Do you understand that?
Only too well.
Then help me find Two-Face. And when we do, you gotta let me be the one to kill him.
Killing damns you. It makes you as bad as the criminals you go after. Batman has never killed, and he never will.
Save the speeches, Bruce. You said you wanted to help me. Then train me. Let me be your partner.
No.
But-
End of discussion.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Nigma Tech's Party of the Century. I, Edward Nigma, have spared no expense to
This
introduce
is quite a
Gotham's
soiree.
No
citizens
kidding.
to the
Not everyone can
future of
afford to rent the
electronics.
entire Ritz Hotel to display his new technology.
Careful, Dr. Meridian. First you're infatuated with Batman, and now it's this Edward Nigma fellow.
Oh, Bruce, don't tell me you're still jealous of Batman.
Ridiculous. I can't be jealous of...
Bruce Wayne, my old employer. Good to see you. How are you, old fella?
As Bruce Wayne and Edward Nigma shook hands, news photographers and gossip columnists rushed in to take photos and get quotes. Everyone wanted to watch billionaire Bruce Wayne shake hands with Edward Nigma, who was set to replace him as Gotham's most eligible bachelor. It was the meeting of the year. Of course, no one, not even the two men, knew that when Bruce shook hands with Edward, Batman was also shaking hands with the Riddler.
So what do you think of my invention now, Bruce? Now that it's made me as rich as you.
Very impressive.
Why don't you step into a booth and try it out, Bruce? While I entertain your lovely friend.
Deciding to investigate, Bruce agreed and stepped into the booth. As he did, the sights and sounds of the party vanished, replaced by a perfect three-dimensional image of a tropical rainforest.
Amazing. I know this booth is empty, and yet somehow Nigma's box is projecting an image into my mind. I see trees, exotic birds. It's astounding.
As Bruce stood, entranced by the image, he didn't know that a beam of white light struck him in the center of his forehead. Nearby, a hidden computer was activated, secretly recording Bruce Wayne's brainwaves. Edward Nigma's latest version of his box was the most devious yet. Now, as well as feeding off the neural energy of any person who used it, the box could also make a complete computer simulation of their brain. And right then, the secret computer was pulling a very obsessive image out of the mind of Bruce Wayne. Over and over, it produced the image of a bat. Just as Bruce Wayne seemed lost in the machine's virtual snares, all the lights went out, and the lobby of the Ritz Hotel was filled with gunfire.
Nobody moves, or we'll blow you away. All right, we and our boys are visiting this high-tech party to perform a low-tech, old-fashioned stick-up. Hand over the goods.
While Two-Face's gang began circulating through the crowd, grabbing watches, jewelry, and cash, no one noticed as Bruce Wayne slipped into the shadows and disappeared. Meanwhile, Edward Nigma pushed his way through the screaming crowd until he was face to faces with his partner in crime.
You're ruining my party. Are you insane? Forget the question. Of course you are. Here's a new question for you. What are you doing here?
We're sick of waiting for you to deliver the bat, little boy. We want him dead right now. And nothing brings out the bat like a little mayhem and murder.
Before the Riddler could respond, there was a loud crash as something fast and dark burst through a nearby window. Before the villains could turn around, the dark shadow had swallowed up 3 of Two-Face's gang. Batman had arrived. Edward Nigma grinned.
Your entrance was good, Harvey. His was better. What's the difference? Showmanship.
As Batman closed in, one of the thugs grabbed Chase Meridian and pinned her to the wall, trying to snatch her pearl necklace. But suddenly, he felt a hand on his shoulder, and a low voice said,
"Excuse me."
As the thug turned, Batman headbutted him, and the villain crumpled to the floor. Seizing advantage of Batman's closeness, Chase suddenly pulled Batman to her and kissed him on the mouth.
My place. Midnight.
Would you excuse me? I have other things to worry about right now.
But by the time Batman turned around, Two-Face and his gang had escaped into an elevator. Batman looked out a window just in time to see Two-Face exit the building and jump into an open manhole. Fearlessly, Batman leaped out the window, plunging toward the street and the waiting manhole. Below, Two-Face saw the descending shadow of the bat and grinned. He had formed a plan to catch the Dark Knight, and so far it was working perfectly.
Welcome our guest, boys.
Two-Face's thugs quickly hoisted a gigantic tube up to the mouth of the manhole. The tube led down the sewer tunnels and into an underground construction site filled with old scaffolding and crumbling pillars. As Batman fell, he dropped through the manhole and right into the tube. Helplessly, the Dark Knight slid down the tube toward the old construction site, where he crashed with bone-jarring force into a brick wall. Back up the tunnel, Two-Face laughed out loud. Then he began to turn the creaking wheel of a rusty old valve set in the wall. Near the dazed figure of the Batman, pipes began to hiss as deadly gas escaped into the sewers.
Don't worry, Betsy. You've just got a bad case of gas. Oh, that and this little grenade launcher I brought along.
Two-Face aimed the grenade launcher down the tunnel and fired.
The bat hath flown. Now shall be done a deed of dreadful note.
The hurtling grenade struck the leaking gas pipes, turning the tunnel into a ball of white fire. The fireball spun toward Batman at blinding speed. At the last minute, Batman swirled his cape around him, then he was engulfed by flames. At the safe end of the tunnel, Two-Face gloated.
We'll dine on roast bat tonight. It'll be a feast fit for two kings.
But Two-Face's bragging was cut short as a dark figure rose up out of the flames. Batman brushed away a few ashes from his fireproof cape, then glared down the tunnel at Two-Face.
Curse you! Why won't you just die?
Consumed with rage, Two-Face blasted a section of the tunnel wall and began to tear away the old scaffolding. Instantly, the tunnel roof began to crack and crumble. The ceiling gave way, and tons of sand and gravel began to pour onto Batman like an avalanche. Two-Face was delighted.
The bat is buried. Boys, let's go have us a party.
As the criminals left the tunnel, Batman struggled against the debris. He was up to his chest in sand and dirt. He couldn't move. As the sand rose to his chin, he reached up with one hand, desperate for anything to grab. But there was nothing. Steadily, the sand covered his mouth, his nose, his eyes, and he was plunged into darkness. Batman had been buried, and only his one gloved hand, sticking up from the sand, would mark his grave. But just as Batman gave up hope, something touched his hand. He felt strong fingers grip his wrist. Then someone started to pull. Slowly, carefully, someone was pulling Batman out of the trap. As his head broke the surface, Batman gasped for air. Then he saw a green-gloved hand hold his. Looking up, he saw a figure wearing the costume of the Flying Graysons and a makeshift mask that covered his face. Batman had been rescued by Dick Grayson. Back at the Batcave, as Alfred bandaged his wounds, Bruce turned to the teenager who had saved him.
What the devil did you think you were doing?
You have a real gratitude problem, you know that, Bruce? I'm gonna be your partner. I need a name. Batboy, Nightwing. What's a good sidekick name?
How about Dick Grayson, college student? This conversation is over.
No way, Bruce. I saved your life. You owe me. I'm joining up and you can't stop me.
Bruce glared at the teenager.
I can stop you.
Frowning, Dick knew it was true. He turned away and stormed out of the Batcave. Bruce turned to his faithful butler, Alfred.
He's out of control, Alfred. And it seems like you're encouraging him.
Sir, I do have some experience with young men obsessed with revenge. I have found that they need little encouragement, but they do need guidance.
Guidance? How can I guide Dick when I'm not even sure about myself? Oh, Alfred, why do I keep doing this?
Why, indeed. Your parents are avenged. The Wayne Foundation contributes a fortune to anti-crime programs. Police handle much of the villainy.
Chase talks about Batman as if he were a curse, not a choice. She says Batman must have suffered some fearful trauma, and that's what he's really fighting. Maybe she's right. Maybe I'm not fighting for justice. Maybe I'm just fighting out of fear.
I'm afraid I couldn't begin to say, Master Bruce.
Could I quit? Could I leave the shadows? To spare Dick? To have a life? Friends? Family? Alfred, I think I'm in love, but Chase loves Batman, not Bruce Wayne.
Perhaps if you told Dr. Meridian how you feel.
How? I'm not sure she would listen to Bruce Wayne.
Then perhaps you should go as...
Batman! I never thought I'd see you in my apartment.
It's time we talked.
I know. I've dreamed of this moment, Batman. Being with you. But now, well, I guess a girl has to grow up sometime.
Chase pointed to the stack of shelves that had once contained files on the Batman. But now all those files had been tossed out, replaced by a picture of Bruce Wayne.
I've met someone. He's not you, but I hope you can understand.
Batman smiled. Then, without another word, he vanished into the shadows. Meanwhile, in his hideout on Claw Island, the Riddler sat in his chair, collecting the neural energy from thousands of Nigma-Tech boxes all over the city. He was growing smarter by the minute, but right now his brain was filled with only one image, the image of Dr. Chase Meridian. Ever since the party, her beautiful face had haunted his ever-growing mind. Suddenly, Two-Face burst into the room, gloating over his victory.
Our belfry is finally free of bats. An end to late-night raids by the man in rubber. No more troublesome explosions of violets from the winged ferret. Ding, dang, dong. The annoying bat is dead.
Have you seen today's headlines?
No, we haven't.
Check out page 1, Two-Face.
What's this? Batman survives subway sabotage? No!
Nice voice. You're a little flat, though. Try a C-sharp instead.
Don't make fun of us. We are angry. Batman was supposed to die. Someone's gotta die. And Riddle Boy, maybe it's you.
Oh, me, oh, my. What desperate straits I'm in. Go ahead, my two-toned friend. Kill me. But if I die, the secret of Batman goes with me.
Batman's secret? What are you talking about?
Simple, Two-Face. My new box knows a new trick. Not only does it drain the brain, it makes a map of the mind.
Touching a button on his control console, the Riddler activated a view screen. The screen showed Bruce Wayne stepping into one of the booths at the party.
And just what does Bruce Wayne, billionaire playboy, have on his mind? This.
Touching another button, the Riddler called up the readouts of Bruce Wayne's brainwaves. Suddenly, the view screen was filled with the image of a monstrous bat, wings spread and fangs bared. The Riddler giggled.
Riddle me this, Two-Face. What kind of man has bats on the brain?
Suddenly, a grin spread across both sides of Two-Face's gruesome face.
A Batman!
A few nights later, Bruce Wayne and Chase Meridian were having dinner at Wayne Manor. As they talked in the dining room, the front doorbell rang, and Alfred went to answer it. When he opened the door, his jaw dropped in surprise.
Hello, faithful butler.
Oh.
Goodbye, faithful butler.
That's the spirit, Riddler.
Oh, he's not dead, Two-Face. Just unconscious. Lock him in the closet and let's get to work.
Using an electronic scanner he'd invented himself, the Riddler located the secret entrance to the Batcave. The secret door swung open at his touch, and the Riddler found himself inside the most powerful crime lab in the world.
Très chic. But it's time to redecorate.
From his pouch, the Riddler produced several tiny green bombs, each shaped like a bat. Laughing evilly, the Riddler began to throw the bombs down into the cave. In the dining room, Bruce and Chase Meridian's dinner was interrupted as a loud explosion shook the floor beneath them. Then, as if on cue, the door swung open, revealing a gang of thugs led by Two-Face. Instantly, Bruce Wayne went into action. He grabbed a silver serving tray and flipped a pot of boiling coffee over the first man. Then he brought the tray down on a second crook's head with a clang. Bruce tried to protect Chase as the other thugs fell on him. He fought back, spinning and whirling in a storm of kicks and punches that pounded the villains. But nearby, Two-Face raised his gun and aimed carefully.
Bruce Wayne and Batman. 2 identities, 1 bullet. See ya!
The speeding bullet grazed Bruce's head. Senses reeling, Bruce collapsed and did not stir. Chase screamed, but the thugs rushed in and grabbed her. The sound of approaching sirens reached them faintly.
Time for us to go, Two-Face. Grab the girl while I leave one more little riddle for our police friends to solve.
Dropping a small note on the motionless body of Bruce Wayne, the Riddler turned and left the mansion. For a long time, Bruce Wayne floated in darkness. Then faintly, he heard the sound of Alfred's voice.
Master Bruce. Master Bruce.
Alfred.
Master Bruce, are you all right?
Well enough to take the bad news.
You've received a concussion, sir. It was Two-Face and the Riddler. They've taken Dr. Meridian, and Master Dyck is nowhere to be found. And, Master Bruce, I'm afraid they found the cave. It's been destroyed.
Moments later, Bruce stood among the ruins of the Batcave's crime lab. All that remained was a hunk of twisted metal where the Batmobile once stood, and a few piles of melted slag where Batman's scientific instruments had been.
We've got to figure out who this Riddler is, Alfred. He's the key to all this.
He left this behind, Master Bruce.
Another riddle. We're 5 little items of an everyday sort. You'll find us all in a tennis court.
Alfred remained silent, watching Bruce Wayne's brilliant mind at work.
5 little items of an everyday sort. You'll find them all in a tennis court. A tennis court. Alfred, that's it. Vowels. There are all 5 vowels in the phrase a tennis court.
Well, that's very clever, sir, but what does it mean?
Digging among the ashes, Bruce discovered the remnants of all the riddles the Riddler had left behind during his crime spree. To these scraps, he added the new riddle.
We know the answers to all these riddles. A clock, a match, a pawn, vowels. But the answers don't seem to have anything in common. Maybe the answer isn't in the answers, but in the questions.
Do you mean...
Yes, every riddle has a number in the question. 13, 1, 8, now 5.
Master Bruce, perhaps the numbers refer to something, an address?
No, the Riddler's too clever for that. In fact, the numbers refer to letters of the alphabet. M is the 13th letter. 1 and 8 together are 18, which is R. And this last one, 5, stands for E.
M-R-E, sir?
No, Alfred. Mr. E, or mystery.
Master Bruce, another word for mystery is enigma.
Mr. E, Nigma. Edward Nigma. I think it's time Batman paid a visit to Claw Island.
Activating a switch in the wall panel, Bruce Wayne opened up a secret portal that led even further down into the shadows.
Lucky thing the Riddler didn't know about the cave beneath the cave.
Descending, Bruce and Alfred found themselves in a dark cavern with a deep subterranean river running through it. Here, Batman stored his jet plane, called the Batwing, and a sleek Batboat.
How shall I go, Alfred? By sea or by air?
Why not both?
Suddenly, Dyck Grayson stepped out of the shadows, wearing the new costume he'd made. He wore a black cape with yellow on the inside. He wore green leggings, and his chest was covered by a red armored vest. On the vest was emblazoned a small yellow letter, R.
What's the R for?
Robin. It's a nickname my dad used to call me. He always said I flew just like a robin. Riddler and Two-Face make a pretty lethal combination. I thought you could use some help.
2 against 2 are better odds. But your attitude
has changed. Whatever happens, I won't kill him. A friend taught me that.
Not just a friend, a partner. Let's go.
In the control room on Claw Island, alarms began to bleep as scanners revealed a boat and an airplane streaking toward the island at high speed. But Two-Face and Riddler sat calmly in the control booth as the Riddler played what looked like an electronic game of Battleship.
Let's see. I think I'll try A14.
As the Riddler plugged in the slot for A14, a hidden cannon fired an explosive shell. The bomb rocketed toward the approaching Batboat, exploding only a few feet away.
Good shot, Riddler. Now try B2.
No, you mean B12.
No, B2. B2. 2!
Sorry, but accuracy comes before themes. B12.
Another cannon fired. This shot rocked the Batboat, sending the pilot Robin off balance. The boy wonder jumped overboard and dived deep, just as a third explosive shell struck the boat, throwing it to smithereens. As debris fell around him, Robin stuck a rebreather in his mouth and began to swim toward the island. But suddenly, he was surrounded by men in scuba gear. The Riddler's henchmen had come to finish him off. One of them raised a spear gun and fired. As Robin twisted in the water to dodge the spear, he wondered if he'd made a terrible mistake. Overhead, the Batwing soared over the harbor as its infrared camera scanned the water below. Batman had seen the explosion and knew what it meant. Suddenly, the infrared screen filled with an image that showed that Dyck was alive and under attack. Without hesitation, Batman pointed the Batwing's nose toward the water and dived. Below, in the cold water, Robin fought against the Riddler's hired thugs. He elbowed one in the face and kicked another, but they were all around him. It was only a matter of time before he was beaten. As the thugs closed in, a dark shape loomed nearby. It looked like a jet airplane, but it moved like an underwater vessel. The Batwing had become the Bat Sub. One of the Bat Sub's torpedo tubes fired, but the weapon it launched was not a torpedo. It was Batman himself. The Dark Knight sped through the water, crashing into the unsuspecting villains. Stunned, the thugs fell away. Batman hauled Robin toward the surface, and the two heroes swam toward the island. Inside, Two-Face and the Riddler waited.
They're on their way, Riddle Boy.
Let them come. We're ready.
Swimming quickly, Batman and Robin reached the island. To their surprise, the ground was made of metal. Robin climbed ashore.
Careful, Robin. This whole place could be one big trap.
Before Batman could finish, a loud, low rumbling noise drowned him out. He stared in disbelief as Robin started to rise into the air, far out of reach. The entire island had risen 5 stories into the sky, supported by a gigantic steel cylinder below. The steel foundation was spotted with metal hatchways. Unable to reach Robin, Batman opened one of the hatchways and slipped inside. Above, Robin clung to the metal surface until the rising cylinder finally stopped shaking. Robin was wondering how he was going to get down when a voice spoke behind him.
We flipped a coin to see who got to kill who. The bat or the bird. We got you.
Robin turned in time to see Two-Face charging. The split-faced killer knocked him to the ground, then leered over the teen. A wicked-looking knife appeared in his hand.
What's wrong, circus boy? No mommy and daddy to save you?
The knife slashed down, but at the last minute, Robin rolled away and jumped back to his feet. Then he sidekicked Two-Face square in the head.
For my mother.
Two-Face tried to back away, but Robin caught him with a flying front kick under the chin.
For my father.
Ah!
The villain cowered, but Robin whirled viciously and landed a spinning back kick on Two-Face's jaw.
For my brother.
Two-Face stumbled, and before he could regain his feet, Robin punched him one more time, hitting him solidly in the face.
And that one's for me.
Dazed, Two-Face lost his footing on the cylinder and slipped off the edge. At the last minute, he grabbed a metal spike and hung there for dear life, his 2 feet dangling over the waiting water of Gotham Harbor. Robin stood over him, wanting to see Two-Face fall to his death. But Bruce's words echoed in his head, and he knew they were true. If he killed Two-Face, it made him no better than a common murderer. Reluctantly, Robin reached down and hauled Two-Face back to safety.
Thanks, kid. The bat taught you well. You're noble.
Suddenly, Two-Face drew a gun.
Stupid! But definitely noble.
Inside the cylinder, all was dark except for dozens of glowing question marks that spun through the air. Batman ignored them. Nearby, the Riddler sat on his throne surrounded by a ring of pulsing light that meant his boxes were feeding him ever more brain power.
Riddle me this, riddle me that. Who's afraid of the big black bat?
No more tricks, Edward. Release Dr. Meridian. This is between you and me.
A figure shouted, stepping out of the shadows. It was Two-Face.
And me. And me!
Face it, bats. You're outmatched. My boxes do more than enhance neural energy. They steal brainwaves. I'm the smartest man in the universe. I will rule the planet. For if knowledge is power, then tremble, world. Edward Nigma has become a god. Was that over the top? I can never tell.
Enough talk. Let's cut him in two.
That's the beauty of it, my bifurcated friend. He's already 2 people, aren't you, Batsy? He's Bruce Wayne, and he's Batman. Can they ever coexist? We'll see. Now.
Laughing evilly, the Riddler pulled a lever. A curtain drew back, revealing Chase Meridian and Robin. Both were bound and suspended over a trapdoor 5 stories above the water.
One touch of this button, bat freak, and these 2 players are fish food. Not enough time to save them both. So who will it be? Bruce's love or Batman's partner?
In answer, Batman pulled a batarang from his utility belt and threw it directly at Riddler's control panel. The batarang struck, and there was a tremendous explosion as the focus of the Riddler's brainwave technology was shattered. By destroying the control panel, Batman destroyed the Riddler's only means of controlling the energy that poured into his brain.
No!
There was no way for the Riddler to avoid the sudden rush of neural energy that surged toward him. Massive doses of brain power flooded his cranium. His entire head seemed to warp and twist, as if his brain were struggling to absorb everything being downloaded into it.
Bummer.
Just before he collapsed, the Riddler pushed a button, and Robin and Chase suddenly dropped toward their doom. Fearlessly, Batman leaped after them, holding a batarang in each hand. As he fell, the Dark Knight threw the first batarang upward and heard it hook on a ledge in the shadows above. In mid-flight, he hooked the end of his batline to his belt and reached for the falling figure closest to him, snatching Chase Meridian from her deadly plunge. At the same moment, Batman hurled the other batarang downward toward the still falling figure of Robin. The throw would have been impossible for anyone else, but he was Batman. He could not, he would not fail. The screaming batarang raced Robin toward the ground and looped around the brave teen's waist. The batline went taut, and Robin's deadly fall was safely broken, only a few feet above the rocks. Summoning all his strength, carrying the weight of two other people, the Dark Knight climbed toward the ledge above. Finally, he reached the ledge and pulled his two friends to safety. Batman thought he had a moment to catch his breath, but suddenly a bright light shone in his eyes. It was Two-Face.
All those heroics for nothing. No more riddles, Batman. Just you and us and our gun.
Haven't you forgotten something, Two-Face? You're always of two minds about everything. You can't kill me unless the coin decides.
The villain grinned and took out his infamous silver dollar.
You're right, Batman. Call it life or death.
But as Two-Face flipped his coin into the air, Batman reached into his utility belt and tossed a batarang, knocking the coin from his hand.
No, my coin! My coin!
Desperately, the madman scrambled around, searching for his special coin. Losing his balance, arms flailing, Two-Face toppled.
No!
Slipping from his perch, Two-Face plummeted downward as the angry sea rose up to meet him. On a dark night later that week, a Rolls-Royce drove slowly past the grim walls of Arkham Asylum. Inside the car, Alfred drove slowly as Bruce Wayne and Chase Meridian looked sadly at the madhouse.
So the Riddler's been locked up there for good?
Yes. His Enigma tech boxes drove him insane. Even if someday he does regain his senses, I doubt he'll remember my secret identity. And if he does, well, I'll worry about that when the time comes.
And Two-Face?
His body was never recovered, but it's safe to say he was killed by the fall.
As the Rolls-Royce cruised away from Arkham, Bruce turned to his lovely companion.
Chase, I want to thank you. And I want to tell you that I...
Sir, forgive me for interrupting.
Yes, Alfred.
I believe you are being called.
Alfred pointed up toward the skyline of Gotham. Suddenly, the ominous light of the bat signal pierced the starry night. Batman was needed.
Gotta go.
Don't work late. There he goes. Does it ever end, Alfred?
No, miss. Not in this lifetime.
Later, a shadowy figure appeared on the edge of a tall Gothic building. The Dark Knight stood watch over the 1,000 gleaming lights of Gotham City. His city. His responsibility. But then another figure appeared at his side, the figure of Robin. Never again would Batman stand alone against the darkness. No matter how long the battle for justice went on, the citizens of Gotham City knew that they could count on Robin and Batman forever.